Hello guys, welcome to Top Anime Sensei. This video is the continuation video after Lakeshore Dyed Scarlet. So if you have not watched it, then please watch it. The link is in the description. So without any further delay, let's start. But before we start, please like, subscribe and press the bell icon for more updates. Even those who didn't have money would be paid in advance on the day they joined the army. This was paid as part of the salary, after calculating the number of days remaining in the year. Basically, you had nothing to lose in the army. Even if a soldier died on the battlefield, the advance payment was to be considered as part of the compensation. Common soldiers, privates, received only the basic pay of 10 gold coins, which amounted to 1 million yen per year. The army took care of their food, clothing, and shelter, so the poor considered the salary to be a small fortune. Various benefits, bonuses based on rank, as well as hazard pay could also be supplemented. Mark and Zin had the rank of first lieutenant, while Shinji was a major with a military doctor qualification. They didn't have the authority to command others, but their positions came with certain privileges. In the Empire, otherworlders were given preferential treatment. At the very least, they were treated as second lieutenants, but Shinji was given better treatment than the others. That was why the trio's salary was much higher than ordinary soldiers. The bonus given to a first lieutenant was 36 gold coins. The bonus given to a major was 44 gold coins. 4 gold coins were added to the bonus amount for each rank you climbed. The annual salary of Mark and Zin totaled to about 50 gold coins, and Shinji's was a little less than 70. Even though soldiers earned more than commoners, it wasn't enough for them to live a luxurious life. They would be rich in the countryside, but the cost of living in the capital was high. However, you would face this world's harsh realities if you left the army to live independently. Being able to live a stable life was attractive in itself, but today, they had learned something. The three of them were debating whether they should quit the army and live together in the Labyrinth City. They earned more than 300 gold coins in their latest sale with the Freedom Association alone. This short-term mission had earned them way more than what all three of them combined could make in a year. On top of that, they could never have hoped to possess their own unique grade equipment, unless it was provided by the Empire. All in all, the mission was greatly rewarding. All of them had realized this truth but hesitated to say it aloud. They walked without saying a word before stopping to eat at one of the high-class restaurants of the capital city Rimuru. They hadn't experienced luxury in a long time. Are you sure this is a good idea? Selling equipment on our own like that? Zin, who was a little timid, asked nervously. It's totally fine, Shinji assured him, unperturbed. It's not like we sold everything, and we have already set aside some samples. And no matter what, we can't bring everything back with us, Mark added. So, if we keep the good quality ones, then there won't be any reason for them to complain. All of the goods looted during a military action belonged to the army, except when soldiers were permitted to plunder. In this case, they couldn't complain if everything were taken away from them. However, Shinji and his crew were tasked with the mission to investigate the dungeon, while posing as adventurers. So, it would only seem natural for them to play the part. You could think of it as a perk of this kind of job. Besides, Yuki wouldn't ask them to hand over any of the looted goods. There was no doubt that the trio could keep everything except what they had to submit as part of their mission. But, you know, if they're going to take away all the money we earned, we'll seriously consider immigrating here, right? Shinji suggested, and they both readily agreed. 1 gold coin equaled 100,000 yen. This held true in the Empire as well. The gold coins made in the Dwarven Kingdom were in circulation far and wide, and even the Empire recognized them as legal tender. Since the coins they had earned were the same, they could still use them back home. I seriously think we should do that. Yeah, I was joking earlier, but if we try our best, we are pretty sure to have a better life here. Shinji was half serious about that, but Mark and Zin were way more interested than he thought. It was true that the Empire was the hub of cutting-edge technology and fostered a prosperous culture. The capital was especially advanced. The food was tasty, and the living standards were high. As long as they had the money, they could live as happily as they did in their previous world. However, the trio were active soldiers in the army, so it wasn't an understatement to say that death was waiting for them around every corner. In that respect, the dungeon was a blessing for them. After all, death would never catch them there. They were skeptical at first, but after experiencing it for themselves and getting resurrected, their doubts were instantly erased. If they didn't have to worry about dying, then they could earn as much money as possible and live every day to its fullest. It was quite reasonable for Shinji and the others to think this was the better choice. But even if you had enough money, it would be useless if there wasn't any entertainment to spend it on. This too was possible in Rimuru, which had more than its fair share of entertainment centers. They had a place called the Colosseum, which was open to the public on days when there were no events taking place in it. On such days, the citizens were free to hang out and play there. Sports like football, baseball, and various others were popular and commonly played in Tempest, so those who challenged the labyrinth also had a great time. There were hot springs and opera houses as well. Plays were also staged, which, as they found out during their investigations, were packed every day. The trio found that the food was just as good, if not better, as the Empire's. The Japanese flavor that Shinji missed dearly, plenty of sweets, and a wide variety of liquors. Even the dishes that didn't exist in this world had been recreated here. As someone from Earth, Shinji's heart was truly enamored of this city. Frankly, they were obliged only to Yuki, and it seemed like Yuki himself didn't want to be hostile to Demon Lord Rimuru. So even if Shinji and his friends were to move to this country, they wouldn't really be considered traitors. Despite desertion in the face of the enemy, ensuring us a death sentence, and the fact that we are currently on the eve of war, it's not like we are currently at war. I was thinking the exact same thing. Shinji, we can still resign from the army voluntarily, right? I think it depends on Yuki-san. Had war broken out, it would have been desertion, but fortunately, the situation was still peaceful. Depending on how you interpreted things, it wasn't impossible to retire and leave the army. The problem is the war, muttered Mark. This was the exact reason why they couldn't come to any concrete decision. There was no doubt a war was about to start, and this land would be directly subjected to its ravages. If it weren't for that, they would have already chosen to immigrate here. Which side do you think will win? Rather, if we were ordered to attack this city, what would we do? The three exchanged looks with one another. The food, which they found so tasty before, suddenly lost all its flavor. There were two reasons why they couldn't do such a thing. They had only stayed in the city for a short period of time, but it had already grown on them. The thought that this city would vanish disheartened them. There was another reason too. Considering the strength of the boss in that labyrinth, it wasn't hard for them to believe that the powerful people in this country had incredible abilities. Normally, I think it's only natural for the guardians who protect important facilities to be strong, wouldn't it? But is this country's army really weaker than the guardians of the Empire? That borders on wishful thinking. Shinji reasoned. That's what I think as well. Demon Lord Rimuru himself must be on another level. Mark murmured in agreement. A long time ago, that evil dragon Veldor annihilated an entire city. And that story doesn't seem to be a joke. I think even that White King is capable of the same. Shinji nodded. In all honesty, the monsters in this country would be capable of causing similar calamities. It's just my estimation. But it seems like archdemons are capable of using nuclear magic. And I think that is comparable to the tactical nuclear weapons on Earth. I think so too. Our common sense dictates that war is about numbers. But fighting that boss using quantity seems futile. I don't think we can win, unless we have dozens of warriors who are at our level. They all had worry in their eyes as they glanced at each other once again. It was immediately after this that they received the magic communication from Gadra. An old man prostrated himself before me. Behind him were the three challengers, who I had been watching on the big screen yesterday, also prostrating. The old man was called Gadra. He was the one who had requested an audience with me, through Raisin and Diablo. He wasn't wearing anything flashy, just a somewhat high-tier magical robe. His eyes were sharp and didn't match his old body. Just as I'd thought, Shinji was actually Shinji. His real name was apparently Shinji Tanimura. It appeared that the other two had registered themselves using their real names. These three seemed to be this Archmage Gadra's subordinates. The trio worked for Yuki, but this time, they were under Gadra's care as assistants in this investigation. That was what they'd told me so far. Gadra assumed this pose right after he had finished talking and the others followed suit. But if they were to keep this up any longer, the talks would go nowhere. Well, I figured as much. Anyway, we really can't have a comfortable discussion like this, so why don't we go somewhere else? Raise your heads, Shion ordered them after I spoke. For some reason, she said it rather pompously. This was why I found formalities annoying. I always felt like I messed up the procedure, and the truth was that I really didn't want to do this. Yes, ma'am. Given Gadra's exaggerated reply, I already knew that the upcoming discussions would be a hassle. The meeting place was the reception room. The cheaper one. If I had to pick, I'd prefer this one since I could comfortably relax there. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. And if you guys have not watched my other videos, then please watch them. The links are in the description. And don't forget to like, subscribe and press the bell icon so you don't miss the updates.